The first sign that my life was about to split in half was a coffee mug. I know that sounds ridiculous. Out of all the things people remember before disaster hits, mine was a stupid chipped blue mug sitting on the kitchen counter. I walked into our apartment after work and saw Sarah standing there staring at it like she'd forgotten where she was. I kissed her on the cheek and said, "You okay?" She jumped slightly. Actually jumped. Then she smiled too quickly and said, "Yeah. Just tired." At the time I ignored it. I was 38 then. Sarah and I had been together 6 years, engaged for 14 months, wedding 3 months away. Normal life. Predictable life. We had a small apartment, a golden retriever named Max, and this routine where every Thursday we'd order Thai food and watch terrible reality shows while making fun of people. I thought I understood my life. I thought I understood her. People always say there are signs before everything falls apart. I hate hearing that. Because sometimes the signs are there and you just call them stress, exhaustion, wedding pressure, or life being life. And sometimes you're too in love to look closely. Sarah and I met through my younger sister at a birthday barbecue. I remember seeing her sitting cross-legged in the grass, arguing with someone about movies like she was defending her life in court. She was loud, funny, impossible not to notice. I spent most of that afternoon pretending I wasn't staring at her. 3 weeks later we had our first date. 6 years sounds long enough to know somebody completely. I used to believe that. I knew how she took her coffee, knew she cried at animal rescue videos, knew she slept with one foot sticking out from under the blanket. I thought knowing small things meant knowing the important things. Looking back now, maybe there were things I ignored. About 6 months before the wedding, Sarah became distant sometimes. Not dramatically. Just little moments. She'd smile at her phone and lock the screen when I walked by. She started taking walks alone. Sometimes I'd ask, "Everything okay?" She'd kiss me and say, "You're worrying too much." And honestly, I believed her every time. Wedding planning became our entire life after that. Venues, seating charts, flowers, invitations, endless decisions about details I never knew people cared so much about. Sarah seemed stressed constantly. I kept telling myself that was normal. Everyone says planning a wedding turns people into different versions of themselves. Still, there were moments that sat strangely in my stomach. She stopped talking about the future the way she used to. Before, she'd say things like, "When we get a house," or "When our kids are older." Then suddenly it became, "If we move someday," or "Maybe eventually." Small words. Tiny changes. One night I asked her directly, "Are you getting nervous about the wedding?" She laughed awkwardly. "Isn't everyone nervous?" I laughed too. But after she fell asleep beside me, I stayed awake staring at the ceiling. Because nervous wasn't the problem. For the first time in years, I had this weird feeling I couldn't explain. Like I was standing outside my own life, watching something shift. About a month later, I noticed she had started protecting her phone like it contained nuclear launch codes. Again, I know how that sounds. I wasn't the jealous type. I never checked her messages, never demanded passwords, never cared if she went out with friends. I trusted her completely, and I was proud of that. Trust felt mature. Trust felt healthy. But suddenly she'd flip her phone face down whenever it buzzed. She'd take it into the bathroom. If I walked into the room unexpectedly, there would be this tiny pause before she looked up. Just a second. Just enough. One night we were sitting on the couch watching TV when her phone lit up beside her. I wasn't trying to read it. I swear I wasn't. But I caught a preview message. "I miss you already." That was it. No name. No context. Just those 3 words. Sarah grabbed the phone immediately. And I remember my chest tightening in a way I had never felt before. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid. For 2 days I carried that message around in my head like a stone in my pocket. "I miss you already." Maybe it was her sister. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe I was turning into one of those suspicious people who destroy relationships because they invent problems that don't exist. I hated myself for even thinking it. Finally, I asked her. Not aggressively. Not accusingly. I was standing in the kitchen making dinner and I said, "Hey, who texted you the other night?" She looked up immediately. Too quickly. "What do you mean?" "The message. The one that said they missed you." For a second her face changed. Then it disappeared. "Oh my God, Rachel from work. She's transferring offices." Then she laughed. Actually laughed. "You scared me." And somehow I ended up apologizing. I apologized. I remember lying in bed later feeling stupid and guilty. But deep down, something still felt wrong. Like my instincts were screaming and I kept covering their mouth. 2 weeks before everything exploded, Sarah asked if we could go for a drive. It was a Sunday afternoon. Nothing unusual. We ended up parked near a lake outside town, sitting in silence while rain tapped against the windshield. I remember thinking she looked pale. She kept rubbing her hands together. Finally she said, "I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped immediately. I actually remember trying to smile. Like if I smiled first, maybe whatever came next couldn't be that bad. She stared straight ahead and said, "I think I need some space." I blinked. "What?" I feel overwhelmed." "Overwhelmed with wedding stuff?" "No." That single word hit harder than yelling would have. I stared at her. "What does space mean?" She started crying. "I don't know. A break maybe." A break. I remember hearing that word and feeling like the air inside the car disappeared. Because people don't ask for breaks 2 months before marriage. They just don't. I kept asking questions, and Sarah kept giving me answers that somehow explained nothing. "I just need time. I need to think. I feel confused." Confused about what? About us? About getting married? About me? I asked all of it. She cried harder and kept shaking her head. Then she grabbed my hand. "I love you." I actually felt anger rise when she said that. Because I remember thinking, then why does this sound like goodbye? I asked if there was someone else. Immediately. Straight to her face. She looked at me with red eyes and said, "No." No hesitation. No pause. Just no. So I believed her. Again. God, even now that part embarrasses me. I drove us home in complete silence. Over the next few days she stayed with a friend. To clear her head. I told my family we were postponing things temporarily. I told people stress was getting to her. I defended her while I sat alone eating takeout in our apartment. A week later I found out by accident. Not through Sarah. Not through some dramatic confession. Not because I caught her. My younger sister called me on a Tuesday night. Her voice sounded weird immediately. Careful. Slow. She said, "Hey, where's Sarah staying again?" I told her I thought she was with a friend from work. Silence. Then another silence. Then my sister said, "I think I saw her today." I remember laughing a little. "Okay?" "No, with someone." I felt my chest tighten. "What do you mean, someone?" She hesitated long enough that I already knew I wasn't going to like the answer. "I saw her unloading boxes outside an apartment building." I stared at the wall. "Boxes?" "She was with a guy." I stopped breathing for a second. My sister kept talking, but honestly I barely heard her after that. Because one thought just started repeating inside my head. Why would someone on a break move in with another man? I called Sarah immediately. Straight away. No thinking, no calming down, nothing. She answered after the fourth ring. "Hey." Just hey. Normal voice. Like we were discussing groceries. I said, "Who is he?" Silence. Long silence. Then, "What are you talking about?" I felt something snap. "Don't do that. Don't lie to me again." More silence. Then I heard her breathing. I still remember it. slow breathing into the phone. And then she whispered, "How did you find out?" I swear my entire body went cold. Not because of what she said. Because of what she didn't say. She didn't deny it. Not even once. I sat down on the edge of our bed because my legs suddenly felt weak. I asked, "You're living with him?" She started crying. Actually crying hard now. "It's not what you think." I laughed. Not because anything was funny. That horrible kind of laugh people make when reality suddenly stops making sense. I drove to her that night. I don't even remember the drive itself. I just remember arriving outside an apartment building and seeing her standing near the entrance. She looked terrified. I got out of the car and just stared at her. I couldn't even find words at first. Then I said, "You asked for a break." My voice sounded strange to me. Quiet. Too quiet. "You asked for a break a week ago and now you're living with another guy?" She started crying immediately. People walking past us kept looking over. "I didn't want this to happen like this." "Like what?" "Like this?" I remember saying. "Then how exactly did you want it to happen?" She covered her face. Then she said words I still hear sometimes when I can't sleep. "I've been seeing him for months." Months. 6 letters. 1 sentence. 6 years of my life suddenly felt like paper being ripped apart. I just stood there staring at her. Months. I kept repeating it in my head because my brain refused to process it. Months while we were booking venues. Months while we were tasting wedding cakes. Months while she was lying next to me in bed every night telling me she loved me. I finally asked, "Who is he?" She looked down at the sidewalk. Then she said his name. And I knew him. Not well, but enough. Ethan. A guy from her office who had come to one of our barbecue parties last summer. I actually remembered shaking his hand. I remembered buying him a beer. I remembered him standing in my kitchen laughing at some stupid joke I made. Suddenly I felt sick. Physically sick. I turned away and put my hands on my knees because I thought I might throw up. Sarah kept saying my name. Over and over. But it sounded far away. Like I was underwater and someone was calling from the surface. Then came the part that somehow hurt even more. I asked, "Why?" I know people always ask that question. As if there's some magical answer that suddenly makes betrayal logical. But I asked it anyway. Sarah wiped her face and said, "I didn't mean for it to happen." I actually got angry for the first time. Real anger. "What does that even mean?" She started talking through tears. She said she felt disconnected from me. She said things between us had become comfortable and routine. She said Ethan made her feel seen. Seen. That word hit me harder than I expected. Because I had spent 6 years building a life around her. I knew her favorite songs, her coffee order, the way she looked when she was upset before she even spoke. And somehow I wasn't seeing her? I remember saying, "You let me plan a wedding while you were falling in love with someone else." She couldn't even look at me after that. The days after that felt unreal. I moved through life like someone operating a machine with damaged parts. People kept calling. Family wanted answers. Friends wanted details. The wedding venue wanted confirmation numbers and payment information. I couldn't handle any of it. My mother came over and found me sitting on the floor in the living room surrounded by unopened mail. I hadn't shaved in days. I hadn't eaten properly either. She sat beside me and asked quietly, "What happened?" And I broke. Completely. Not movie crying. Not dramatic crying. The kind where your chest hurts, and you can't breathe right. I told everyone Sarah got overwhelmed and called things off. I couldn't say the truth. I couldn't say she had been with someone else for months. I felt ashamed, which makes no sense now. I wasn't the one cheating. But somehow I still felt like I had failed some test I didn't even know I was taking. About 2 months later Sarah came back. Not physically back into my life exactly, but back with phone calls and messages. At first I ignored them. Then one night I answered. I don't know why. Maybe because some stupid part of me still loved her. Maybe because I wanted pain with an explanation attached to it. She was crying again. She told me things with Ethan weren't what she expected. She said moving in together happened too fast. She said she made a mistake. Then she said, "I miss you." Those words made me close my eyes. Because months earlier I had seen "I miss you" on her phone from someone else. Now she was saying them to me. I asked quietly, "Do you miss me, or do you miss the life you had?" Silence. Just silence. And honestly, that silence answered everything. I realized I wasn't her first choice anymore. Maybe I hadn't been for a long time. It's been 3 years now. I'm 41. I have a different apartment, a different routine, and a life that looks normal again from the outside. People assume time finishes the job and closes wounds neatly. It doesn't. It just teaches you how to carry them. Sometimes I still think about weird things. That blue coffee mug. Wedding invitations sitting in boxes. The dog waiting by the door for Sarah during the first weeks after she disappeared. I heard through mutual friends that she and Ethan eventually split up. I felt nothing when I heard it. At least I thought I felt nothing. But later that night I sat in my kitchen and stared at the wall for almost an hour. Not because I wanted her back. I didn't. I think I was grieving the version of my life that I believed existed. The hardest part wasn't losing Sarah. It was realizing I had been standing inside a story that ended long before anyone told me.